Crosscode is a genuine joy to play in every sense of the word. And I just want to take a second and thank the team at Radical Fish Games. They're a very small studio with about 10 people, and they've gone above and beyond to make this game absolutely incredible. Now I should probably stop gushing and tell you why I think this game is so good. But honestly, where do I start? Everything about this game is amazing. From the story, to the visuals, to the characters. Crosscode is an RPG that nails just about every aspect of, well, an RPG. Let's start with the basics. In Crosscode, you play as Leia, a mostly mute blue-haired girl in the game known as Crossworlds. Despite being mute, Leia has a tremendous amount of personality and different relationships with every character she meets in the world. As previously stated, the game takes place entirely in the video game Crossworlds. However, the outside world is sometimes referenced by characters in the game. While this is a small touch, it's one of the many little details that makes the game feel like more than just being some pixels on a screen. The game has a beautiful 16-bit art style, with incredibly fluid animations that are fast and punchy. All the background art is incredibly detailed, the colors are vibrant and varied, and every zone feels completely new with one or two exceptions. Everything about this game's visuals feels fleshed out, and nothing feels like it was skimped out on. If you've been watching the footage that's been playing in the background while I'm talking, you'll probably agree. And if you don't, everyone's entitled to their own opinions, I suppose. I know I just gushed about this game's visuals, but honestly, what I think really makes this game stand out are the characters and the level design. Let's start with the characters. This game features a colorful cast of unique characters and party members. Depending on where you are in the story, you can have certain characters in your party, but at any point when the people on your friends list are online, you can direct message them. Depending on where you are in the game, they will talk to you about different stuff. It's in places like this where you see just how much time and effort went into fleshing out this game's world. Probably the best example of this is Emily, whose full name, I just found out, is Emily Sophie de Belmond. She's incredibly energetic, brash and impulsive, has a fear of bugs, and values her friendships greatly, even if she has trouble saying what she wants to say at certain points throughout the game. This is highlighted by her tomboyish design, the fact that she's a Pentafis, it's the class that punches things, and her in-game name is Emilinator? Emilinator? It's spelled like this. Alright, I hear what you're saying. It's one of the most important characters in the game. Of course she's gonna have a lot of thought put into her character. Bam! This guy's part of our recurring quests in Crosscode. During this quest, you have to collect broken items for each class. This is to help fulfill some secret quest, but he's not in it for the quest reward. The reason he wants to finish the quest is because it's the quest that his children were interested in before they stopped playing, and through finishing the quest he hopes to see his children again, who at this point have moved on to different planets. Alright, that was a lot, and he does have one of the more memorable quest lines in the game. But I've got one more example for you. Bam! This is a girl you see a lot throughout playing Crosscode. She doesn't give any quests, and you can only talk to her once in the game. She has zero impact on the story overall. And yet still, as a joke, she's seen sitting on tables throughout your playthrough of the game. She always has a new excuse as to why she's sitting on tables, until she eventually admits that she just loves to sit on tables, and goes and tells other people of her discovery, telling them that they should try it, as it lets them see everything in a new perspective. I could talk like this about any number of characters in this game, but I think you get my point. So let's move on to the second part of what I think makes this game so good, the level design. I've neglected mentioning it up until now, but Crosscode is a puzzle game. Well, I suppose it's an action RPG puzzle game. And this comes through in every single level. They're filled to the brim with puzzles. This is the one thing that people complain about in this game, but I don't really see it. All of the areas are filled with jumping puzzles and other logic puzzles dependent on the gimmicks of that area. Every dungeon has puzzles catered to that dungeon's element and theme. Much like all good puzzle games, it does a great job at easing you in and teaching the mechanics before gradually putting you through harder and harder puzzles, until it all culminates at the end of each dungeon, putting you through one final trial that tests everything you've learned in the dungeon. And of course, like all classic style action RPGs, the bosses are somewhat of puzzles themselves. Like normal boss fights, you must learn their patterns and exploit them by dodging or blocking and then counterattacking. This is the first layer of what makes the bosses puzzles. The second is the fact that you're going to be using things you learned in the dungeon against these bosses. For example, you might have learned that these poles conduct electricity to other poles around them. So you need to get the boss to attack itself by having its electricity attack come back and hit itself. This is just one example of what is present in all major boss fights. This makes the fights more engaging than just the hit it until it dies mentality that's present in many games these days. Now, I should probably touch on the story. I don't want to say too much as to spoil it for you, but what I will say is that it's really interesting. It touches on ideas that people are worried about in modern times, although with futuristic elements thrown in. The overall narrative is hinted at throughout the game through these dream sequences. But eventually, it's all unveiled and falls into place. Crosscode genuinely made me feel sad for the characters a few times throughout the story. Although, most of the time you're going to be exploring the world with your quote-unquote friends, and doing fun and oftentimes silly side quests that are all very well written. These side quests can range from simpler kill quests, which are usually at least a little bit puzzly, to full-on stealth missions or jumping puzzles. This variety really shows the devs' creative vision for the simple game mechanics they set up, even before you start getting into some of the more involved dungeons. For this whole video, I've been talking about all the things I really like about Crosscode, but to be honest, there isn't much I don't like about it. I guess if I had to nitpick a few things, well, most of the side quests are really good. Some of them get repetitive or are just tedious. Although these side quests are typically few and far between, and I tend to just ignore them. The only other thing I can think of is the viewpoint. Crosscode is a 2D game set in a 3D environment, and this will inevitably cause some of the textures to look like they are higher up or lower down than they really are. Although again, this is very nitpicky, and it's not super punishing to miss a jump or two. And that's all the issues I can think of. But there's one more subject I'd like to cover before I wrap up this video. Difficulty. Crosscode is a hard game, but in my opinion it's the best kind of hard. I'd compare it to the better fights of the Dark Souls series or the Fury bosses. You go in, and you'll probably die, but you'll learn. And then you go in again, and you get further, and you continue to learn until you beat that boss. It's an incredibly rewarding system that makes it so you feel like you earned your victory, instead of just stat checking the boss. And that's my opinion on Crosscode, and why you should play it. Go give Crosscode a shot if you haven't already. It's only like $20 on Steam. You might have been able to tell from this video that I kind of liked the game when I played it, so like I said, definitely go check that out. Honestly, this video took me way longer than it should have to make, and I'm not really all that proud of it, honestly. Just most of the stuff in it I think could have been done a lot better. But I thought I should get it out there, and so here I am. I'm putting it out there. Maybe I'll make another video soon, who knows. Anyways, see you guys later.